Tarik Skubal has saved my life.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers, a playoff edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. This episode is also brought to you by Tarik effing Skubal. I reek, dude. Like I sweat through like all my clothes. That was so just excruciating and painful and so worth it. And Tarik Skubal was the man in the arena, man. Genuinely. He's the one. Like he was the one. That is one of the best performances you will ever see. And that is one of the best performances by a Detroit Tigers pitcher in the history, over 120-year history of this organization. The Tigers win 2-1. They're up 1-0. And a series that's just a race to 2 wins. And the series that wins game 1 historically almost always wins these best of 3 playoff series. Now, it's only a few year sample size. The Tigers have already, like no one in Detroit cares, the Tigers have already had one of the biggest collapses, the biggest collapse in the history of baseball. Nobody here cares about, the odds being in the Tigers' favor. You're going to take it one game at a time. But this was such an important win for so many reasons. One is just simply you can't waste a Tarik Skubal start of that magnitude, right? You cannot waste an outing like that. And thankfully they did not. And they get a win. 2, I think it's also a little bit of a like monkey off the back situation. Cleveland has crushed you. Not only this year, not only in the last just like 3 weeks, they've crushed you for the better part of a decade. And now you have a series lead in Cleveland, and you've proven that you can just win a freaking baseball game over there against these guys. Maybe to yourself more so than anything else. Like you've proven that you can win. No matter how ugly it was, you won. And third, and by far the most important point is if you lost this game, I think the series was over. And not just because, again, of like the likelihood and the past stats of the series, but because of how the Tigers are constructed, right? So many times this year, and when they got off to that great start in the first half, it was because they were winning the first game of series almost every time. In the first half of the season, their record in game 1 of series was just ridiculously high. And especially when you have Tarik Skubal going in game 1, this team just can't afford to not win pretty much every time he goes out there. And thankfully, he's so good that they honestly usually do. But if you lost this game with Tarik Skubal on the mound, there's really, I don't think there was any recovering from that. I think you were absolutely screwed. So, I'm not saying you have to have the utmost confidence in the world. I'm not saying you have to walk around and talk to your, friends from Ohio and talk about how it's like, we're series is over, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm certainly not acting like that. I'm not moving like that, okay? All I'm saying is you at least are giving yourself a chance to now win the series. Where if you lost to this game, I genuinely don't think you would have. I think all of the life would have been sucked out of the fan base and this team, and you're pretty much would have just been marching to your death. This was a huge win, a huge moment, a huge performance by the best pitcher on the planet, and that is exactly what you need out of your ace. There's not too many guys breathing on planet Earth that could do what Tarik Skubal just did, legitimately. And now you have the Guardians on the ropes. Now, I will also say this. You have to finish them in game 2. I guess have to is maybe too strong. Obviously, they could drop game 2 and then win game 3. But you do not want to give this Cleveland team any sort of life or momentum. They have proven to just take it and run every time you have given them even a sliver of hope. I do not want Flaherty in game 3 in Cleveland with Cleveland coming off of a win in game 2. I do not want that whatsoever. End it in 2 games. Do not play with your food. Go out there, win a ball game, and go get ready for Seattle. Obviously, winning game 1 is a huge step to winning in just 2 games. This was a must-win game, and the Tigers ended up winning. So fantastic. What went right? We're not burying the lead. We've already talked about it a lot. Obviously, Tarik Skubal. 7 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 14 strikeouts. His ERA in the postseason is now 1.17 in 2025. So there you go. Obviously, just this outing. That is tied for the most strikeouts in a playoff game by a Detroit Tigers pitcher in the history of this organization. Joe Coleman in the 1972 ALCS against the Oakland Athletics also had 14 strikeouts. I think it was game 3. Those are the only 2 gentlemen that have ever rocked an Old English D in a playoff game and recorded 14 strikeouts in the history of the world. He's the best breathing. He's the best pitcher on the planet. Tarik Skubal won you this game. The Tigers' offense had 0 earned runs, dude. 0 earned runs, but Tarik Skubal is a monster. Not only is that tied for one of the best postseason, tied for the most strikeouts in a postseason game in Tigers history. It's obviously one of the best postseason performances you'll ever see from a Detroit Tiger. It was also a career high in strikeouts for Tarik Skubal. This is the biggest game of the season up to this point, and one of the, 3 or 4 biggest games that Tarik Skubal has ever pitched in his life. And he had a career high in strikeouts. In August and in the first half of September, I talked a lot on this show about how Skubal was still good and was still great and was still one of the best pitchers on the planet. Still was very effective. The numbers were good. But the stuff had taken a little bit of a step back, right? We talked about that a few times in the second half. The velocity down a tick or 2. I don't think the movement really changed too much, but, the fastball was 96 instead of 100, right? Like, he's still really good. If he was taking something off, he was saving it for right now. That was 100 miles an hour. It was 100 miles an hour all game. It was 90-mile-an-hour changeups. It was incredible movement and spin on the curveball. It was a slider. It was pretty tight and solid. I don't like his slider very much. I don't think he likes his slider very much. He gave up 1 hit on it. I think it was the only hit to the outfield was maybe on the slider. But regardless, like he had everything working in this game. 26 whiffs. Do you understand how like almost uncomprehendable that is? In a playoff game, he had 26 swings and misses. Over half of his changeups were either called strikes or swinging strikes. CSW percentage on his changeup, over 50%. He is not even a real person in my eyes. It's like how Allen Iverson described seeing Michael Jordan. It's like a person doesn't even look real to me. That's how I feel about Tarik Skubal. And he's a Detroit Tiger. Okay, let's keep talking about Tarik. I will continue to praise him. You can call me a homer or whatever. I don't care. It's deserved. We'll do that. We will talk about the offense. We will talk about what went wrong. And then we'll preview game 2. Okay? We'll do that right after this. First, though, I'm going to talk to you all about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the best in the business. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting the tickets, well, that's the tough part, right? You have queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun right out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is truly the price you pay. Fees are included, your total upfront. It's one of the best features, really just like period, that are out there on the market. No surprise fees at checkout. So many other great features as well. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply again, but it's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Also got to talk to you all about our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money is the best and is something that everyone that is, has a busy life, I guess I'll say, should have. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does all the heavy lifting for you. Link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 of the Wild Card Series. Today, though, we talk and celebrate a Game 1 win where Tarik Skubal was absolutely dominant. Only had one hit allowed that was out of the infield, as I mentioned. This is what you need from your best player. This is why he's going to get $400+ million. This is why only, a few pitchers in baseball can do this in the postseason. This is what franchise cornerstones do. This is what guys that you build around do. This is what, you look at the national media. What's the biggest reason the Tigers have even been in the national media over the last 2 calendar years? It's Tarik Skubal. And on national TV in a playoff game with all eyes on him, even if it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is so stupid, by the way, he showed out and did exactly what you needed from him. He put the team on his back, quite literally. I had somebody get mad at my use of literally the other day. I guess the team didn't, actually climb on his back, but you get my point. Absolute legend. This team was spiraling out of control, losing all its momentum, if not just lost all its momentum, had a historic collapse attached to it, is facing a division rival that they have been terrible against for a decade, and it's the postseason. And Tarik Skubal, with that train coming right at him, did like the Incredible Hulk thing and or Superman, whoever did that. Spider-Man? Some superhero did that. Just stopped it dead in its tracks. Will Vest was also absolutely fantastic. We will talk about other people, believe it or not, which barely deserved on the offensive side of things. But Will Vest definitely deserves a shot. 1 in the third, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and 1 strikeout. ERA this postseason obviously remains at 0. That was unbelievable. One thing that I will always trust with Will Vest is that he will stay in attack mode and keep his head on no matter what the situation is and no matter what is happening behind him. You had J-Ram on third with no outs in the 9th inning of a 1-run playoff game. And he got out of it. He got out of it. No pitching change required. None of this, we're going to do this and that and make a ton of changes. He went out there. He just locked horns with the offense and came out on top. Stayed focused and clamped it down. Another thing is I think that this is a nice reminder that the Guardians lineup is genuinely not that good outside of J-Ram. Now, I say that and they'll score 15 tomorrow, but their cleanup hitter in this game is hitting 170. I respect the Guardians organization a ton, man. I don't say that out of division rival slander or trying to talk smack. Their fan base all sees it and talks about it and has talked about it all season as well. And so I think it's a nice reminder to the Tigers of how can you not beat this team? Not to say that they're an easy win. The opposite, actually. They're a very tough win because they play the game the right way. But this is a nice reminder. Also, it was nice to see a pitcher field his position well. I feel like it's been, 4 presidential administrations since I've seen a Tigers pitcher field his pitch position correctly. My goodness. Might have even been more impressive than the pitching itself. It's an actual miracle. I also, for what it's worth, don't disagree with J-Ram running on contact there. The ball goes half an inch to the right or Will Vest bobbles it or anything like that, then Cleveland ties the game up. And again, they know that their offensive numbers are really bad. That they're not ignorant to that just because they're the team. So coaching knows that, and very similar to the Tigers, they're going to be aggressive on the base paths and try to get runs scored because of that. Because they don't trust the bats behind them. I say that not from an ivory tower. We do the same thing. The Tigers have done the same thing all year. And it's worked really well for them. The last thing I want to talk about, speaking of the Guardians, on the side of things that went right here, is you kind of played guards ball a little bit. And that just feels so good. That feels so good. Right fielder bobbles a ball. You take an extra 90 feet, you score them. Bunting. Multiple times bunting in this game. AJ never bunts. But playoff baseball is different. AJ, say what you will about him, okay? Say what you will about his experience with the Astros and the cheating and all of that. He has managed a ton of playoff baseball and a ton of regular season baseball and knows the difference between the two. You have to scrape together every single run you can get. Zach McKinstry has not been hitting well for 3 months now. Want to give a ton of credit to him. That was a beautiful bunt. Beautiful. Textbook. Safety squeeze there. They don't ask how. Just get it freaking done. Now, what went wrong? The offense. 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. 0 earned runs in this ball game. 0 earned runs from the Tigers offense. That is not going to get it done if you want to make a legitimate run in the postseason, obviously. And Skubal can't pitch every day. You're going to have to score some runs at some point, believe it or not. I know it's a hot take. I do appreciate the small ball advancing of runners, knowing that they can't hit the ball. I appreciate also that Gavin Williams has legitimately been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball since the All-Star break. And I think he pitched phenomenal in this game. He threw a stellar ball game. Everything was working for him rather. But this team hasn't hit very well in high leverage, certainly, in over a month. And the heart of this lineup still came up to bat multiple times in high leverage situations and did not come through outside of the Torque single in the very first inning. Torkelson had an RBI hit. Green struck out twice, did have a double and a walk. The double, he was a run scored on that McKinstry bunt. But you are not going to be able to get through the American League in this playoffs without getting those big hits or some home runs at some point. At one point in this game, you had 2 on, no out with Glaber up. You had 2 on, no out, right? Javi gets on, Parker Meadows walks. 2 on, no out. Your 2, 3, and 4 due up. Glaber grounds into a double play, and next thing you know, the inning is over. Was your outs. And you had Williams on the ropes. He was missing the zone consistently. He was clearly rattled by the umpire, which we'll talk about in a second. You had his back against the wall, and you did not capitalize. And the next thing you know, he goes 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, and doesn't give up another run. Ultimately, they did enough to win, and that's all we care about. But it would be disingenuous of me to just not talk about the glaring issues that are still present and prevalent with this team. Defense. You also can't afford to do this defensively every game. You had oh my goodness. Let's go to a break and then we'll talk about the 9th inning. Okay? We'll do that right after this. First, though, got to talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you won't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play, right? I've built parlays, tried player props, even followed live lines during games. Whether you're a casual or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So talking about what went wrong, the defense in this game almost cost you in a massive way, okay? You can't afford to do that consistently either, especially against a Cleveland team that just lives for other teams' mistakes, okay? It's how they score all their runs. Javi makes a great diving play and then bounces a throw to Torkelson. Not a good throw, okay? Also, on paper, a very easy scoop. Both screw up there, and next thing you know, there's a man on third with no outs in the 9th inning of a 1-run game, and everybody in Detroit is going to pass out or have a heart attack. Everyone. It's oh my goodness, it's actually happening again. Guard's ball is actually going to kill this team for the 8th time in 2.5 weeks. Again, as we talked about earlier, thankfully it didn't. Great play by Will Vest. Did that textbook, by the way, fake the throw home, go right at the runner. You don't run to a bag, okay? If you're a kid and you're, learning how to play baseball, that's how you handle a pickle situation, okay? You go right at the runner. You do not give him space or time or go to a base and let him run back. You go for the runner, and he faked the throw to home to get J-Ram to go back to third. Then chase J-Ram down, fakes the throw to third to get him to turn around and run straight into him for the tag out. Textbook perfection from Will Vest. Tarik Skubal, on the other hand, has now had multiple defensive mishaps in his last 2 outings. I hate that he defended that ball where the Tigers scored their only run. That's just not his ball. Simple as that. Now, in the moment, it's playoff atmosphere. You're trying to get to everything. I get it, okay? And ultimately, he just put together one of the best performances a Detroit Tiger pitcher has literally ever had, okay? So we're going to give him a break. But in the moment, that is just simply not his ball to field. And I think that if Javi or Glaber coming in on that chopper pick it up, then maybe the runner at third doesn't even break for home. And if he does, I think you have a significantly better chance at getting him out, if not just a guarantee. Skubal, basically underhanded that ball to home. He wanted to make sure it was accurate and took 30 miles an hour off of it. Got in there with a run to tie the ball game. I really do think that if Javi especially fields that ball, that you have a much better chance on that play. You also, the inning that he got pulled in the 8th, he could have turned 2 in that inning. Ball bounced out of his glove, only gets 1, doesn't come back to bite him, but we could be talking about an 8-inning performance, and heck, I mean, maybe even he gets out of that clean, he goes back out there for the 9th, who knows? Who cares, okay? The Tigers won. They just haven't been very good defensively lately, especially in those, infield situations like that. So you got to limit those. That's all I'm trying to say. Stuff. The umpire, I did not think was very good. I don't think he was very good for either team, but I also think it's very fair and accurate to say that the Tigers were the beneficiary far more than the Guardians were. Now, I also think, I believe you make your own luck with that kind of stuff. I talked about that with the Guardians a week ago, right? Where I was like, oh, everyone says the Tigers, or the Guardians rather, score all their runs based on like this, magic luck thing. I think you make your own luck by putting the ball in play consistently, right? I think Tarik Skubal makes his own luck by being around the strike zone with elite stuff all the time. But I do think that the umpire had a rough night. And I think that the Tigers were the beneficiary probably more than the Guardians were. Also, just the play at the plate. That was the most obvious safe call ever. I have no clue how he was standing right over home plate and missed that call. Now, the big important thing that I want to talk about going into game 2 is not only did Tarik Skubal dominate, and that's just awesome because he dominated this game, he also saved the entire bullpen. You are 1-0 on the road in a playoff series where you're a win away from advancing, and you only used one reliever in game 1. Not only that, the pitcher you used in game 1, Will Vest, can easily go again. He has pitched once in 4 days. You're not saving him for anything. He's pitched back-to-back days all season. And if it's in a win, then you have the next 2 days off at least anyways. Literally, he saved the entire bullpen with this performance. So you now have an 100% rested pen. Your number 2 starter, who we'll talk about in a second, and you're a win away from advancing to the ALDS. The Tigers playoff roster obviously was announced well before the game on Tuesday, but we have not had an episode since it was announced. So we'll talk about it a little bit. Not too much dig out of it. Not a ton of surprises. No Chris Paddock, I guess, which is like not surprising, but noteworthy given the trade deadline. You have Justin Henry Malloy and Jahmai Jones and Andy Ibanez. I think that that's noteworthy. So you have a platoon situation you could take advantage of pretty much anytime you want. No Reese Olson expected. No Colt Keith expected. No Matt Bierling expected. From the non-injury point of view, the only even remote surprise is probably no Brennan Hanafy, a guy that AJ Hinch likes a lot, but he feels comfortable with the righties that he has and wanted to make sure that he got multiple lefties in this bullpen for this series. So those lefties, outside of obviously Tarik Skubal in starting rotation, but the only lefties in the bullpen, the only lefties outside of Tarik Skubal actually are Brant Herter and Tyler Holton. And neither of them needed to pitch in game 1, so we'll take it. Jack Flaherty is your game 3 starter, should there be a game 3. Game 2 is Casey Mize against Tanner Bybee. Mize on last Saturday, that is, legitimately had one of the best outings I've ever seen from him. And I genuinely mean that. That was one of the best outings of Casey Mize's career. From a stuff perspective, maybe not from like a box score, but that was some of the best he has ever looked in a Tigers uniform. And that was in maybe the biggest start of his Tigers career. If he can replicate that again, I genuinely believe the Tigers can get out of Cleveland in 2 games and start preparing for Seattle. The whole bullpen is rested. Let's go win a playoff series for the second year in a row. Hey, why not? Why not, baby? Oh, they won a game. Thank goodness. It's like a huge sigh of relief. They won a game. And it was a Skubal game, right? They were favored. Like that was, Cleveland fans, I'm sure will tell you that was always going to happen. If they're going to win this series, they were going to have to win games 2 and 3. I understand that. This is far from over. But you have the upper hand. You lost the division. You choked that away to this team. You haven't beat them in who knows how long. And now you have them against the ropes. End it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping said ball game, game 2. It's a 1 o'clock first pitch. Yet again, I think it's 1:08 p.m. Eastern. Bybee has dominated the Tigers this year. Let's play ball, baby. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then. Go Tigers.